Continuing lesson 1.1 on relating integers and their opposites. We're going to look at some problems in your workbook, your additional practice workbook, page 1. So if we start out here, number 1, the temperature was -6 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's read the directions first. In numbers 1 through 4, write the integer or description that represents the situation. So number 1, the temperature was -6 degrees Fahrenheit. It rose so that the temperature was 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So blank represents the change in the temperature. So if you think about it, if it was at -6 to get to 0, we would have to go up 6. So 6 degrees or 6 degrees Fahrenheit represents the change in the temperature. It has to be a positive change. Notice also those are opposites, and opposites add up to 0. -6 plus 6 equals 0. Number 2, Trevor spent $27 and now has no money left. So he had blank before his purchase. So that would have to be $27. If he had $27 and then he spent $27, he's got nothing left. Number 3, on Monday, the price of an online movie dropped $3 in the morning and then another $3 that afternoon. The following Monday, the price increased by $6. So the price of the online movie blank change from Monday morning to the following Monday morning. So we're filling in the blank here. This is going to be either did or did not are going to be our options. So altogether, the price dropped by $6 and then it goes up by $6. So we could say it did not or didn't change overall. Number 4, a scuba diver rose 600 feet to the surface of the water. So the integer that represents the diver's position with respect to the water's surface before rising is what? So this diver was under the water and then it rose to the surface. So where was the diver at before they started rising? So for this, we're going to consider, again, the sea level, the water level is 0. Below the water is going to be negative. Above the water is going to be positive. So they started out below the water, so they're in the negative. So their starting position would be -600 feet. Okay. It just says what integer, so if you just put -600, I guess would work, but it never hurts to put units on your answers also. Okay. Number 5. A diver is 19 meters below the surface of the water. Use an integer to represent how far the diver will need to travel to reach the surface. Okay, so they're under the water. They're trying to get to the surface. The question is, what are they going to have to do? So we could say if they're 19 meters below the surface to start with, they're starting out at -19 meters. So to get to the surface, they're going to have to go up 19 meters, and we'll call that a positive 19 meters then. And again, those are opposites. -19 plus 19 gets us to 0. Opposites add up to 0. Okay, so we go over to number 6. An elevator goes up 7 floors and then down 4 floors. So what integer represents the change in the floor level? And when we're doing this, then we can think about if we went further up, then that should be a positive change. If we went further down, then that should be a negative change. So for this one, since we went further up, then overall our change is going to be a positive. So this would be 3. 3 would be the integer that represents that change. Okay, we could think about if we went up 7 and then down 4, now we're 3 floors above where we started. Number 7, how do you know the opposite of a non-zero integer? So different ways of explaining this. One way we could say basically we've got the same number part but the opposite sign. So in other words, if it's a positive number, the opposite's going to be negative. If it's a negative number, the opposite's going to be positive. Another thing we could say, it's the same distance from 0 in the opposite direction. Number 8, Sean is exploring a coral reef 91 feet below sea level. And Liz is hiking 91 feet above sea level. And so the question is, who is farther away from sea level? So if we think about this, Sean, 91 feet below sea level, he would be 91 feet away from sea level. Liz, 91 feet above, so 91 feet away from sea level. So who's further away? The answer would be neither. They are both 91 feet away from sea level. We go to number 9. What must be true about two integers that combine to equal 0? So one way of looking at this, if they're not both 0 to begin with, one would have to be positive and one would have to be negative. We could say they'd have the opposite signs then, unless they're both 0. Another way of putting it is we could say they must be opposites. Number 10, a golfer's score after playing on Friday was +2 or 2 over par. And the score for Saturday's round was -5 or 5 under par. At the end of his round on Sunday, he was at even par or 0. So what integer represents the change in the golfer's score from the end of his round on Saturday to the end of his round on Sunday? And explain your answer. So one thing we can think about, if he ends up at 0, basically we have opposites. We could have, if we had two numbers, they'd be opposites. That would add up to 0. So if we have -5, we had a +2. One way of thinking about it is we've got these opposites that add to 0. So right now we've got more negatives. So his actually score right now overall would be negative. It'd be under par. Technically, if you want to be specific, it would be 3 under par. So kind of what we could be looking at is we could look at, well, how many more positives do we need for these to balance out and be opposites? And so the answer is we need 3 more positives. That would give us a total of 5 positives, or 5 over par, balances out our 5 under par and brings us back to par. So +3 or 3 over par would be his last round score. Number 11, which situation can be represented by the opposite of -7? Okay, watch the wording on these questions. Opposite of -7, the first thing I would do is think about what the opposite of -7 is, and then I'll answer the question. So first of all, the opposite of -7 is 7. So we're trying to figure out, basically, out of those options, which of those would represent 7. So you take an elevator down 7 floors, you take an elevator up 7 floors, the temperature drops 7 degrees Celsius, a stock decreases 7 points. So the one that would represent 7 would be taking an elevator up 7 floors, would be a positive 7. All the others would be negative 7. Okay, so watch the wording there. Opposite of negative 7 is 7, and then we get started working the problem. Number 12, a submarine is underwater. Its position is 645 feet below sea level. It rises in the water 100 feet, then descends 100 feet. Which integer represents the change in the submarine's position in the water? So we got to think about what the question's asking. The question isn't saying where is the submarine after the changes. The question is what integer represents the change. So if it went, we don't really actually need to know where it started for this problem. If it rose 100 feet and then descended 100 feet, so it went up 100, then went down 100, the change would be 0 or 0 feet. Okay? If it asked what the ending position would be, that would be negative 645 feet. But the change would just be 0 feet. Number 13, the amount you pay for a car is not usually the sticker price, which may be the starting price. The price of the car was reduced by $300 from the sticker price, then increased by $900 for additional features, then reduced by $600 by the dealer. What integer represents the total change in price with respect to the sticker price? And if you want, you can use a number line to represent that change. So if we look at this, we have two reductions. We have a $300 and a $600 reduction. So that's $900 reduction, or like a negative 900 if you want to think of it that way. And then we also have an increase of $900. Okay? So if it went down 900, it went up 900 altogether, the change would be 0 or $0. Number 14, Carlton answered 53 questions incorrectly on the test. Write two different situations that can be represented by the opposite of negative 53. So first of all, we got to think about opposite of negative 53 would be a positive 53. So lots of different examples. We could say somebody got $53. We could say somebody got 53 questions correct. I guess if we had a really big building, we could say they went up 53 floors. Number 15, which of these situations can be represented by the opposite of negative 5? Select all that apply. So opposite of negative 5. So opposite of negative 5 is 5. So we're looking for which of these are matching up with 5. So I guess we'll number these 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So number 1, you remove 5 bushes from your garden. That would be negative 5, so that doesn't work. Temperature rises 5 degrees Fahrenheit. That works, so we'll check that one. Temperature drops 5 degrees Fahrenheit. That doesn't work, that would be negative 5. You save $5 on a book with a coupon. And that one, you could look at it either way. You could look at it as your savings, so that would be like negative off of the price. The book actually has it checked, but I would probably accept either way because I can see both sides of that one. You withdraw $5 from your savings account, so that would be taking money out of your account. That would be a negative 5. Okay? And then 16, which of these situations can be represented by the opposite of 8? So opposite of 8 would be negative 8. So we'll just look through those. So the first option, delete 8 contacts from your cell phone, that would represent negative 8, so that works. If we look at the second one, depositing $8 into your savings account, anything with savings accounts and things, they're going to think about in terms of your account, how much money is in the bank. So if you deposit is putting money into the bank. So that would be a +8, so we're not going to check that one. Temperature rises 8 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be also a +8. Plant grows 8 inches taller. That would also be a +8. You walk down 8 flights of stairs. That would be a -8. So the first one and the last one would be what would work for that. So this gives you an idea of how to relate integers and their opposites. Have a good day.